neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
All right. How is everybody out there in the vast listening audience world? How you doing, Taylor?
My allergies are terrible.
Yes, I know.
My eyes were swollen shut this morning.
Really? Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Today we're going to talk about the Joshua ISD bond, and we have the two main proponents that have been driving this train. And we're going to talk about what's on the bond, how it's I believe, broken down into 4 parts, if I recall, and what's on those 4 parts, and the necessity of it, the need for it, how the campaign's going, all the above. So I'll let y'all introduce yourselves to the audience.
I'm Leia Wright.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a parent at Joshua ISD, and I'm on a couple of rounds in now of the bond. So
this is your second time to be on the show because you had one back in November.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We were a little short of passing it in November, and I was part of the 2022 bond also that did not pass. So here we are.
Mm. And
good morning. I'm Angela Boone. I am a mom in the district. I have a 8th grade boy and a 9th grade boy. And this is my second time to serve on the bond, but my husband also served on the PAC, the first one that Leah just mentioned. So I work full-time, I serve full-time, I mom full-time.
I blame her husband for me being part of this because he invited me to the first PAC.
And now you just can't get enough, huh?
Yes. Well, we're seeing it through.
Yes.
Yep,
well,
that's right.
I have been on a bond committee before in Burleson. I was on the 2006 bond committee, so I am familiar somewhat with the trials and objections and obstacles you have to overcome to get a bond passed. So, this was the bond that created Centennial High School, and there were a lot of people very upset by it. And and I'm sitting there on that bond committee thinking, I can almost see your point, but I have been kind of keeping track of what's going on in Joshua ISD because I have a couple of friends whose kids are in that school. I have a friend whose daughter works in one of the schools. And, we have 3 schools in the Burleson city limits, right?
Sure.
And so it's not our neighbors' issues, it's our issues as well. And all I could say is y'all do need to pass that bond because what my friend's daughter told me about what's going on in North Joshua Elementary is just, it's going to be what was happening to BHS towards the latter part of before we split the 2 schools up, kids sitting on the ground and cafeteria. And I had students without desks and stuff like that because they were coming whether we could fit them or not. So, but before we run into that, we're going to talk about the sponsors real quick because they make all this possible. And you probably know some of these sponsors. I bet y'all been to our place at least once. I mean, our place.
At least 5 times.
At least 5 times, yeah.
A few.
Yes. Our place is where I do most of my business and whatnot for a networking group and also for this show. It's a great meal. It's a great service. It's really interesting is that his staff is very long-term. He didn't have nearly the turnover that a lot of places like this have. And that tells me a lot about Otto, the owner. Also, Gina's Pizza has been up and running for about a month, and you better get there if you want to get there early because, it's pretty busy, particularly on the weekends. It really is a great place. So thank you, Otto. Also, Wild Cigar. Do y'all smoke cigars?
I've been there a time or 2.
You have, huh?
I enjoy it.
It's a cool place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that because, people they think, well, I don't smoke cigars. Well, it's a good place to go have a drink or to have a conversation. Or if you know somebody that smokes cigars, they got gift cards and whatnot. And Nathan and Chris, the 2 owners, are very active in our community with the nonprofits and whatnot. So it is a good place to go. Also, Tiffany Nico over at Local Life, the magazine probably is in your mailbox right now. It always comes out the 1st or 2nd of May, goes to 30,000 homes. It's always informative, got articles as well, but it's a good place to find out what your neighbors, not just in Burleson, but they get advertisers from Joshua, from Cleveland, and you can find out what's going on and what kind of deals you can have. So thank you, Tiffany, for all of that. Also, this is a big one. Have y'all been to this place, Southern Gem Jewelry? My wife works here, so.
Yes, I follow it.
You follow it. And then you know about your big party coming Saturday, right?
Yes. Kentucky Derby?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
fun.
Yeah, she's a member of that networking group I mentioned, and she just telling us about it yesterday. And it's going to be a big deal, all right? You have contests. You're going to have some raffles that are going to benefit the equine therapy group, Wings of Hope. I had them on Monday, and it was a very impressive outfit. And they're going to have bourbon tasting and they're going to watch the race. She has a TV in there, a big flat screen and whatnot. What I like about it and what the husbands like about it, there's a place for them to sit while the ladies go shopping for looking at jewelry, out being rushed. Sit down, watch the TV, have a Dr. Pepper or a glass of bourbon or whatever you care for. And it's a good place to do business, because you won't have the husbands bugging you. Come on, hurry up, I got to go.
Let's go.
Yeah. So, but you've been there, have you?
Yes.
Good. And it's good to hear.
Cool.
Yeah. Also, we have Two Maids Cleaning. They do Gala's cleaning at that place. What is really great about Two Maids Cleaning, which you could find at twomaidscleaning.com/Bertelson or at 817-764-0733. What's great about them is they do your business, or home or apartment or whatever, and then they get paid based on the rating you give them. So they're pretty motivated, to say the least. They're not going to come in and, all right, I've been here now, where's my money? They're going to get paid based on how well you say they did. And they do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
I'll tell you what, it'd be a good Mother's Day gift.
It's,
Good plug there, Angela. That's a good.
I need to promote that. Where am I? Where's my thinking? Yeah, that would be a good Mother's Day. A lot of the people use it, but they also use it for the parents, and because we're at that stage now where they may need a little extra help. So it really, that would be a good Mother's Day gift. I have to think about that. All right. Also, thank you to Oprah Roofing. They're here in town. John Williams, 817-734-2756. It's always a good time to get your roof checked because it's a bad time when it's raining and you find out, I should have gotten my roof checked. Mm-hmm. And they won't come and sell you, something you don't need or tell you you need repairs when you don't. And all they're upfront. You're like, John has done my roof. He said, no, your roof's good to go. And so when it's had all this rain this week, it's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about it. So anyway, give John a call again, 817-734-2756. Also, Camco, Sammy Campbell, Candy Gal, Mortgage Brokers, and the B&G building. Sammy's at 817-778-4592 and 817-925-2661. Candy's going to be on the show sometime in May to talk about what's going on with those real estate rates, because it is nuts. But they do business, and I asked them, is it strictly in the Bertelson area? No, they do all sorts of around the DFW area, because they have a reputation in the industry for really doing a good job, and I've used them before, and it really was great. Lastly, but not leastly, Jeff Kelly over at the Wethington Agency. He sells some real estate. He'll be on the show as well, probably at the end of May, talking about what's going on in real estate, and he sells all over. He sells in Joshua. Of course, I understand Joshua's growing a little bit.
A little.
Yeah. So his cell 817-781-0546, 817-720-6300 is his office. Give him a call, or you can call or email him. I always get these things wrong. Email him, jeff@jeffkellyrealty.com. But he works with a Wethington agency here in town, so you're working with a local deal. Okay. Now that's done.
Got some great groups sponsoring.
I do. Yeah, I'm really pleased with them. It's like it's like a little group, a family, I guess. And what makes me so proud of is not that they do good service and your money's worth and all that, but they're good people. They're all involved in nonprofits and charities and things of that nature. Every one of them. It's really great, and I feel like I'm honored to have that kind of support because I don't know, I'm just honored that they see my show as worthy of their sponsorship. But let's go back to y'all. As far as this bond, approximately how much is it?
A little over $106 million.
Mm-hmm. I remember the two gentlemen I had on Tuesday. I knew it was like a little over 100 million, but I wasn't quite sure, but because it's been a couple of days and I'm getting older. But as far as the bond itself, here's what I'm thinking is happening. You've tried to get them passed before, but things aren't, just because there were some objections to the last bond didn't mean prices and needs went away, right?
No, I mean, honestly, the majority of this bond, well, everything on this bond was on the November bond as well. And we actually had to take a few things off because of inflation and, and just really trying to prioritize and our future planning committee, Angela and I were both part of, just listening to the feedback from the community of where their minds were and the priority to everyone and taking that forward when we started putting a good package together, which I feel like this is a package that gives people options this time. That was really the biggest thing, most feedback that I heard from the community was splitting it up and letting people choose because my priorities may be different than yours. Well, they are. Everybody's are. So it's
A la carte.
sure.
You're right. But one of the pieces of it, there's 4, I believe. One of the pieces is for a new elementary school, right?
Correct.
If that had passed, I tell Joshua voter, if that had passed 2 years ago, that school would have been less expensive than it will be now. Because
Yes, sir.
even if they pass it tomorrow, they start building tomorrow, it's still going to be expensive. But, I was part of a bond package with the Centennial High School, and we passed it in, I believe it was 6 or 7. I'm a little vague on the dates. But it was almost like 3 years before dirt started turning. And in that 3-year period, things go up. And now they've really gone up in the last 3 years. I would tell Joshua voters, the day's coming, you're not going to be able to get away from not having another elementary school. I mean, the courts won't allow it. The federal government wouldn't allow it. I don't, state of Texas, who knows? Dan Patrick hates us, but whatever. But
Good job.
what I would tell people is, it's coming. It's just how much you're willing to pay for it.
Sure.
Because you can pay for it now or pay for it 3 years from now, plus 20% more than it would have cost you.
That is true.
Yeah. But, because, that experience I had with our bond committee, we weren't dealing with inflation like y'all were or are. And so that's a real problem. So how much is that particular piece of it?
52 million, I believe, but we also, Proposition A includes the addition and expansion to Nichols Middle School. So I think it's 63. I'd have to look. I should have brought that in with me, but it's right around that to do both of those schools.
Is Nichols the one that's on 917? Or
731.
731, that's what I meant. Yeah, 917. 731 is what I meant. I know exactly where it is.
Yes.
Okay, but it's in Burleson, right?
Correct.
And this new elementary is probably going to be in Burleson because of all that development's going on near the Chisholm Trail. You probably are familiar with Rocky Branson's plan, that 20-year plan to really expand out there. And that's been a real impact on our city politics about services and infrastructure, all that. But so the two of the school, this expansion, this new elementary is going to affect Burleson residents.
Sure. Absolutely. And, the school has land the district owns land right behind QT on 174 in Panchasarp Farms, that development. And then the last bond had money built into it for land acquisition. That is no longer part of it. So yeah, the growth and development for Joshua is definitely that west and northwest side of town. So, it makes sense that it will be out there for sure.
Well, and that's why I had a couple of people asking. I said, I'm doing this show on the bond. I said, really? Is it something we need to think about? I said, absolutely it is. Because most of the impact of that bond may be for Joshua ISD, but it's going to affect the city of Burleson. And home building, and it's coming anyway.
And lucky them, because we're a great school district.
I think so. Yeah, well, I have had some colleagues that worked over there, and at times when I was like, this place is crazy, I'm going to go work at Joshua. Yeah. Well, there was no place to go because those people didn't let go of their jobs. They have a lot of tenure there. So that tells me a lot. You see any business or school, that a lot of turnover, you wonder what's going on. But, you just saw very little turnover at Joshua High School.
Yeah, and between Angela's family and ours, we've kind of crossed all of them. We've been at different elementary schools with our kids and different middle schools, now coming together at the high school. But we've gotten a pretty good big picture of the district as a whole, and it's been great. It's been a great experience for us. So.
And for me, I am a Burleson city resident at Joshua ISD. So it's, we do Burleson trash. We vote in Burleson, but we Joshua ISD. So a lot of it's interesting, the crossover, and that some people don't understand that it's both, right?
And you were talking right before the show, you're not only getting students from Burleson, but Cleburne, Godley, Keene, all those, because that little area, that Twilight Zone area, whatever you want to call it, between Burleson, Joshua, and Cleburne, I don't know where I am half the time. Right. And so you're getting this bond. It is going to affect residents, not just of y'all's town, but all of us.
Yes,
sure.
And so if y'all's educational system is impacted negatively by overcrowding, which I think is one of the biggest issues facing schools now, then it isn't just, that's Joshua's problem. It's not. It's our problem.
Well, and people have to there's a personal impact they have to feel, and listen to what the district is telling them. I feel like that's kind of where there's a breakdown sometimes. Like this year, for instance, North Joshua kids and Elder Elementary kids, where ours both attended, they're funneling any overflow in some of those classes are going to be bused to a different campus. And I'm like, we can't do that forever.
You could have one baby still at North Joshua and then the other child busing to another elementary because that grade is at capacity. So
Burleson ISD's gone through something like that before when they had to reconfigure the zones and whatnot. And one way they kind of get around that a little bit is through schools of choice. I've had the person that runs that program for them on the show before. But still, you run into that situation where, let's say, you're living right next to an elementary school, but it's already full.
Sure.
And so you can't go to the school that's across the street. You have to go to the elementary school that's 5 miles away, which maybe not sound very far, but it's surely inconvenient. And, a lot of driving and picking up and all that. And so are y'all faced with that situation as well? You mentioned about the terrible inconvenience it must be to have a third grader at this elementary and a fifth grader at that elementary. I mean, it's confusing and it's disjoining to the family.
What did you say, Leah? How big is the district square foot?
So I think it's 75 miles.
75 square miles.
Yeah.
So you could be living here, going to school here. The one kid, it's.
Yeah.
And it also means 2 sets of parents' night, 2 sets of meetings of teachers, 2 sets of dealing with administrations, whatever else.
And your children attending a school that you never may have intended for, that you bought your house. Most people buy their house based on where they want their kids to go to school, especially when there's 5 elementary schools. So, I would say it's very fair to say for North Joshua, a lot of people buy in that area, Mountain Valley, for that specific school. So to then get to that point and say, oh, hey, sorry, they're actually going to go to Plum Creek. Not that Plum Creek's not a great school. I would put mine in any one of the elementary schools in Joshua, but the reality is that people buy based on what school their kids are going to attend. So.
Well, that's the furthest from North Joshua.
That's right. Yeah, it's literally on the opposite end.
Well, I always thought of BISD, one of the very best aspects of it were the elementary schools, because I knew a lot of the teachers, of course, and my kids went to Holy Cross when they were little bitty, and then we put them in public schools. But, I knew a lot of the teachers, and I knew what kind of people they were and what kind of quality they gave. And the impact they made on my students. I taught juniors and seniors, and they still remember their 4th grade teacher, very affectionately. But, you're right about the moving. I talked to real estate people on the show, and they say the 2 things that brought people to Burleson was the schools and the police, that they, a secure environment, and then all the business stuff. But the business stuff came after that.
Sure.
Right? It wasn't like they put all these businesses here and everything else changed. It was the other way around. And that's happened with Joshua. I mean, Joshua's nothing like I remember when I first moved here.
Yeah. Well, and I've never heard anybody say, well, I want to live in Burleson because they have Target,
Right.
Actually, I did. When we moved back to Texas, I said, I want to be in a city that has a Target.
Maybe HEB.
Yeah, right. Now, that was a big deal. But see, the thing about it is, HEB never would have given us a look if we weren't growing, but they also calculated the reasons why they come here because they knew they can get good employees.
Sure.
And I had a lot of kids that worked for HEB, particularly when they first opened up, and they're a really good employer for students. Not every store. Some stores, they kind of skirt the rules on who works and how late they work and whatever else. But HEB had a great reputation for taking care of the kids and accommodating their academic schedules and things of that nature.
Sure.
But they wouldn't have come here if we didn't have a decent school system.
Right.
And that's what I tell people who say, why it didn't affect me? I don't have any kids. Think about that next time you go to HEB or Kroger or, some of these restaurants that are coming in or, these other places that promote here, they wouldn't be here without a good school system, period.
Sure.
And so I'm sure y'all have run into the argument quite often. I don't have any kids. Why do I care? Why am I having my taxes go up? And what do y'all tell them?
You want to start?
Yeah, I'm sure this has come up more than once.
Certainly we focus on society and growing leaders of tomorrow. And so there's that aspect. But then also there becomes an aspect of, we aren't necessarily trying to convince those that are convinced the opposite way. And so we're looking at our parents, our voters, that we're trying to get them to the polls. So do we try to convince the ones that say I'm not paying taxes and I don't have kids? That's everybody's entitled to their opinion. And that's unfortunate that that's the way they feel that way. But, I feel very committed to continuing to give. I mean, I grew up in Crowley ISD, so I was through that big boom. I was in portables and everything else until the new schools and new bonds and everything continued to grow. And somebody paid the path for me. And so I would, I plan to pay the path for somebody else. Leah and I both have children that will be out of this district by the time these bonds come. And we see the fruits of our labor, but it doesn't matter. We're doing it for our students of tomorrow, and we believe in the leaders of the district and the as faculty and staff of the district. So we're committed to that.
Yes, and you mentioned portables. When I was at the old high school, old timers like me would call it. It's now that early college program on Johnson Street. We had kids in portables. Okay, in the last 3-4 years before Centennial opened up, we had kids in portables. And what I would tell somebody like that, we got kids in portables, those are not safe. They're not safe. They're not safe from the weather, and they're not safe from these tragic things we could hear about. I mean, we could have all the SROs, and I believe Joshua has their own force, right?
We do, yeah.
All right, you could have all the protection provided, but somebody's bound and determined to want to do some damage, they're going to do it. Mm-hmm. And those portables, they're just sitting out there without any kind of benefits of a more sturdy building or whatever else. I remember several times and over the years, we'd have weather events. Mm-hmm. They'd bring in all the kids
inside,
from portables.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what we had to do. I grew up in Rio Vista. We had them there.
Mm-hmm. And then, just on the academic side, you're out there teaching. Some kid wants to go to the men's room. Well, you won't see him for a couple of days,
Well, and that's some of the elementary teachers at North Joshua expressed to us, like, what does that look like if you have younger kiddos out there? I mean, all of them are younger. They're elementary, right? So if one has to go to the bathroom, do we load the whole class up? Or if there's an emergency,
you'd have to have the bathroom aid.
Yeah. Is there, if there's an emergency, does the whole class need to truck it into the school? I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, well, that's me. It's me. I'm that's the voice of my phone. I've been doing this for nearly 4.5+ years.
My goodness.
I know, and I still forget to turn down the sound.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah, I still make it, but I'm just sharing it with some various other groups.
Oh, good.
And y'all can share this as well when y'all see it on y'all's various postings and such. You can share with all those people. But anyway, the thing about it is it is academically disruptive, okay? Because even if you're doing something like, just a typical day and it starts raining a little bit, the noise level is high. Or even if you have a student that's going to the men's room and really intends to come back, it's still a 20-minute trip.
Sure.
And so that kind of thing. And tardies and, and all this stuff that people don't think about. When you're a teacher, you think about them. And it's in the long run, it's probably more expensive or less cost effective, maybe is a better word, to have portables and such, because you have to have all the other stuff going on, not just the building itself, but the electricity and the blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But again, the security factor, I think, should be something that these people should bear in mind.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have kids in school, you don't want to make them targets.
Absolutely.
I can't believe somebody would be that callous about it, but apparently some are. And that was my experience in 2006.
Yes.
And we just, have differing opinions with folks that have that thought process. So we just focus on,
Really have to exercise your tact muscle, huh?
Yes.
We do. There are some people that are totally fine with portable buildings. I went to school in one, it's fine. And it's just you have to respect that not everyone's views or priorities align with yours. So just kind of have to move on past that.
And I think a lot of people think, well, some of these schools are being built are, too luxurious, too opulent or whatever else. And we heard a lot about that with Centennial High School. Mm-hmm. And that was a tough time for our district because we were dividing and becoming not a one high school town with all that goes with that, but two, right? Mm-hmm. And why do they get more? Parents, why is their facilities nicer? What, blah, 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 all that.
Sure.
Okay. There's a lot of, they're getting this, why aren't we getting that? Or if they have that, we want it too.
Sure.
And so we had to kind of go through that period. But a lot of people, they looked at Centennial High School and they thought, wow, that's too much. What's the matter with a nice, one-room schoolhouse like I came up in.
And we hear people say that, or I read a lot of it, that, they're going to build this Taj Mahal of an elementary school. And I'm like, if you just take a look around, that's not anything Joshua's really historically done. I mean, everybody goes after the stadium. That was a long, long time ago. And it is nice.
We had to do that too.
But, for the most part, everything's pretty modest and crosses the needs. If I could stress to anybody that's on the fence about that, like, go drive around these campuses and look, because I feel like that is part of it too. If they don't have kids in the district, and they just go look, Joshua's not doing a lot of things super flashy. Look at us. I mean, look at our CTE department. We are way behind neighboring schools and districts. And I share this all the time when we talk about CTE. I have a 26-year-old that went through high school. CTE wasn't necessarily as big of a deal. He graduated in, I don't know, what year did Matt graduate? 2018. So it wasn't nearly as popular, especially Rio Vista, but now to see the boys here in Joshua and see what their options are, I love that the school gives them these options. But when you go, I went to Royce City for a baseball tournament this summer, and I pulled into their new parking lot, and this huge, crazy state-of-the-art facility, I mean, looked bigger than our high school, and it was their CTE campus. It wasn't even just a wing of the school. It was its own campus. It was insane.
Have you been to the Ben Barber on 1187 in Mansfield ISD?
Yes.
I haven't. She's seen it. Yeah.
What do you think of it?
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I saw it in 2010. At the time, the principal was a colleague of mine from BHS, and now she's on our school board. And she invited me to come see it. And I was like blown away. Now, we had a decent CTE program in 2010. We have a much better one now because we put money in it.
Yes.
Sure.
They expanded a lot of the offerings. But I went to Ben Barber and I'm like, is this really, it's amazing. Now, if somebody resents that, it's like, I'm not understanding this, okay? Because would you prefer they go to school in a barn? Is that what we're talking about here? Would you be satisfied if they were just kind of go into some dilapidated old building and be good with it just because you came up from a school back in the 60s that may have been behind the times? Therefore, you want to project that onto these kids. That's what gets to me a little bit. It's like
Opportunities.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, I went to a really far along high school, if you will, a very progressive agenda or academic school. I graduated from Plano in 1980, which has a lot of similarities to Joshua. Because when I moved there with my parents, I was 6th grade, it was mostly homes, and everybody worked in Dallas or whatever. And then 6 years later, it's 100,000 people. All right.
Look at it now.
Yeah. I don't recognize it. I don't get nostalgic when I go back to Plano because it wasn't there when I was.
Well, and it all runs together. I never know which.
Frisco, McKinney, Plano.
Right. Well, Frisco was just a map reference. So literally, they had less than 100 people there.
Oh, wow.
And when I was in high school, same with, Murphy and Princeton, and then Allen was like 2,200. But all the, it's like, when somebody says they're building these schools too fancy, said, really, when you build a school that's by design going to be obsolete or dilapidated, what are you telling the kids about the value of education and how much you value them? That's how I took it. I could see it, more objectively about Centennial now because I was with part of that group back in, oh gosh, I got all this nice stuff and I'm here. But I had everything I needed at BHS. All right. It may not have been space age, but it was close enough. And
I remember when Burleson High School was built.
Right.
And passing it, like, whoa, look at the big high school in Burleson.
We heard all these things then too. Well, that school was good enough. My kids went there, or I went there. That school over on Johnson Street, was Curry Middle School, was falling down on itself. I mean, it really was. And it was so far behind in the wiring for internet and all that. When it first started happening, they said they didn't know how they're going to do it because they said they're going to blow the fuses out. And you look at the carpet and it's, I spilled my coffee. Well, no big deal. And just rub it into the carpet and there you go. So, I had guys in the back that had a little cup whatever, and then a spit cup.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed. And they just rubbed a tobacco chaw in there. And, it's like.
Teen boys.
Yes.
We know about that.
Yeah, but it's like, would they have been content to go to that school until it basically became a health hazard, which it was actually? Asbestos was a big problem.
Oh, wow.
You had to have every year the asbestos talk. So that's what I would say. Is that what you're asking our kids to do? And in reality, if this bond passes, how much would it impact the school taxes? If you're over 65, they're frozen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so they don't have an excuse. But as far as how much has it been calculated, how much it would add to the property tax bill?
Yes. I mean, based on like a $246,000 home, it's about 25. Is it about 25 bucks?
And the district even allocated to the put out in public each individual a la carte bond on how much it would raise, per bond, per package.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, if it all passes, about 25 to 30 bucks on an average home. Maybe if you have a bigger home like at Mountain Valley, maybe $100. I know $100 still means something to me, but I'd rather be doing that knowing that I'm going to get value from it and value to the community than just having it assessed by the federal government. God knows what they're going to do with it. So
And I think Leah's pulling up those exact numbers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A big piece of that is, right, your taxes will raise. And so, the conversation about what is it worth to you and what does it mean? And I was walking a neighborhood recently and talking to citizens and voters about, early voting and things like that. And a gentleman said, I'm a homeowner and my taxes are going to raise. Yes, sir, I'm a homeowner as well. My taxes will raise.
Yeah, we're all going to feel it. Yeah.
well, that's just life in the big city, so to speak. I mean,
sure.
because if your taxes were going down, that's not a good sign either.
Sure.
I mean, you might be thinking, well, I'm saving money, but that's because your valuations are going down. And anytime your home valuations are going down, that's an indication of something bigger going on in the economy.
Yes.
And a lot of these people that are going to get churned up about taxes rising in Joshua, and we got people here in Burleson would be on that same attitude. They enjoy all the benefits of what's going on in this community, in part based on the schools.
Sure.
All the choices we have, for restaurants and shops, and got alley cats coming in. That's a big deal.
Or the police and firemen doesn't. I mean, I'm not tend to have a fire, but I still want my taxes to support them.
And I want quality people to be firefighters and police officers, just like I want quality people to be school teachers. And I could tell you, the first thing a teacher would think about, of course, would be pay. And Joshua pays better in Burleson, which always irritated me. But it is what it is. But, let's say even when the opportunity came up to go to Joshua, if I had to go to some dumpy old school, I probably would pass, even if it meant I wouldn't get a $2,000 or $3,000 raise. Why? Because to me, if the school looked like some barn, it tells me how much support I would get as an educator.
That's true.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good.
And it also would tell me a lot about how much support does the community give education, if they're content to let their kids go to substandard schools. So that's how I don't.
And the cost of maintaining those schools. I mean, we're seeing that with the heaven forbid, bring up the roofs or air conditioners. They're all, they're all valid things though that require maintenance. And
just tell them open the window like we did my day.
And I misspoke on the value. It's the average is 286, 454, and so Proposition A's monthly impact on that average home value would be $15.24. Prop B would be $2.17. Prop C would be $7.13, and Prop D would be $1.13.
$1.13.
So when you break it down and see it like that, it's kind of like, oh, wow.
Well, we talked about the new schools. What are the other three aspects of the bond?
So the high school cafeteria is Proposition B. It's just outdated, and it's 2 levels right now.
I've been in it a couple times.
Yeah.
It was interesting when we took a tour of the facilities and kind of thought, part of the committee said, I went to high school here and it has not changed. This is what it looked
At
like.
all. Yeah.
Well, that's also a situation because as Joshua grows, the areas of crowding that I noticed the most were the hallways and the cafeteria.
Yes.
With kids sitting on the steps
Yes.
and eating their lunch there, or they come eat lunch from me in my room. even though they weren't supposed to. But
You're a nice teacher.
yeah. So, well, I mean, I didn't mind it. I just, the administration didn't want the food in the room. I said, oh, okay. And I had to go about my business. But also in the hallways, and you think, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, it's not just tardies and overcrowded bathrooms. You put a bunch of kids in an overcrowded bathroom or hallway, something might happen.
Yes.
Sure.
Well, imagine the scheduling for the principal and counselors of figuring out the different lunch periods and getting those, shuffling those students in and out. Additionally, when we took the tour of the cafeteria, it's back in the kitchen, it's a 2-tiered level. So the ladies are pushing, food. They cook it over here, but then they have to push it on a crate to the other side to serve.
Yeah, up to the serving. Yeah.
So if you look at
It's not
How does it get through
it's not very functional.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, you're also running the risk of health-related issues.
Sure.
with overcrowded,
And the technology's changed.
And just the efficiency of it. I mean, you got to feed kids, and everybody needs an opportunity to go through that line and get a meal, and whether it's breakfast or lunch. And I mean, we've Miss Neal talking about, 400 kids in a lunch period. I mean, that's a lot of kids to feed.
And that,
so
like I said, I've been in the cafeteria. That's a crowd.
oh yeah.
Ours at BHS, particularly before we split, we'd have about 700.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and they would be all over the place. And we had 4 lunches because we had 700 until we went to 4 lunches, but that was a scheduling nightmare.
Oh sure.
But also the point is that you're talking about in the long run and being more efficient. You were talking about equipment. When you're using dilapidated old equipment, it costs you more to run it. It's less efficient, less energy efficient, whatever. You mentioned CT. That also is part of it. Which prop is
That's
that?
Proposition 3, yes. And
So they're at capacity. We had a teacher that's in the CTE, and she was talking about, she came from another district, and she said, we have crank beds, one of the medical CTE programs. She said, they don't even do those in the hospital anymore. Crank beds, it's changed. All of my equipment is outdated, not to mention space. She's teaching her class, and it's a 2-block class. So in the middle of her class, students have to walk across to get to the other classroom.
When that was one of the things about Centennial. They opened up this culinary arts program, with a professional little kitchen, and people going, well, do we really need that? Yes, because that's the kind of kitchen they're going to go into.
Sure.
They're not, we had a culinary arts program at BHS, and they did the best they could, but it was a kitchen that probably y'all would have been taught at in home ec in the 1970s kind of thing. A couple of ovens and stovetops, and that's about it.
1970s? I mean, gosh.
No. I'm talking about me. Y'all.
Where's the sound effects for that one?
There you go. Thank you. Y'all in the 1990s, I'm sure. But I'm just saying that when I was in the 70s, it didn't have much difference in what the kids were doing at BHS.
Yes.
25 years later. There you go. Now we just, used flint and got a fire started.
Right.
But as far as, so when we got Centennial, it not only improved the quality of the CT there, but also at BHS. We got better. We kept upgrading the computer equipment.
Sure.
And now you go over to that game theory school and all that business. Wow. But see, what us old timers need to know is that's the world they're going into.
Yes. Well, and for culinary specifically, it services our district on different events that we're having, hospitality events, that those students are getting that firsthand experience. They're also an opportunity to community to use them and, fund that program. But additionally, their students want to get in, they're capped out. You can't get in. So not only outdated technology, equipment, not enough space, classroom-wise, the flow of it's, not conducive. It's maxed out. You've got, and you think about these students that this is where they will do. They're perhaps not college bound, and so they're wanting to leave with some sort of certificate, some sort of immediately can get a job. And we know for the district to say, sorry, cosmetology, there are no more spaces. We're out. And so what does that mean for that student?
Sure.
I have had some students tell me that before. Before we kind of really focused on doing CTE, like we have in the last decade and a half. It wasn't like we were ignoring it in my first few years, but just the money wasn't there. And the facilities weren't there. And then we got to the BHS, then we got to the Centennial, and now this school on 174 on Wilshire. It made a lot of difference. And when I first started teaching high school, a lot of my students, they may go to Hill or Tarrant County, but a lot of them got a job at GM or at the Miller Beer Plant or, in construction or whatever else. They really weren't intended for college. And for us to create a school in which college is the end goal for everybody, that's not very academically sound.
It's not, but the thing about it too, what is interesting is a lot of those kids on those pathways, it's a stepping stone into their career field. Doctors, they're in the training program, the not kinesiology, but basically athletic training or whatever that program is called. And then they're wanting to go on and be a physical therapist, or, it's just easing them into the field that they plan to study in college.
Yeah.
So it's not just those kids that don't have necessarily, a 4-year degree ahead of them.
Sure.
It's
both. It's both.
is.
We know that trade is the future, right? I mean, open ending paper, everybody talks about the trades and the certifications, but certainly students at our college bound to get that experience and exposure on that field is practical.
Well, Hill College got a big program over in Cleveland, and also if y'all heard of Craftworks coming in, it's going to be 5,000 square feet. It's going to be an industrial educational school.
Is it in Joshua? Oh.
It's going to be in Joshua ISD, but it's going to be in Burleson
It's
City.
going to be over there in Rockies.
And that over by Chisholm Trail. It's really close to that.
I didn't know the name of it,
pay
but I did.
Joshua ISD taxes.
Yes, yeah, and it is a for-profit school, so it's not it's going to be taxed. So.
Similar to TSTC, correct?
Very much so.
Okay,
But TSTC is a public school,
Right.
but this is like, for pay, I guess.
Sure. Concordia, right?
Yeah, none of that. But I think this is a really big deal for us as a city, because we get the taxes for the city, but y'all get the taxes for the schools.
Right.
Okay, good.
We need some of that.
Yeah, we all do.
I don't think but a lot of citizens don't recognize that we don't have big businesses like that in our district. And so where we see really great things happening in Burleson, there are some great business taxes that are feeding to the Burleson ISD, and Joshua doesn't have that opportunity as much.
Well, this is a big one. And, again, when I was early in my high school teaching career, we had trades, we had, auto mechanics and carpentry, but we didn't have the kind of stuff even I had in high school. When I was in senior high school, my high school, which again was a very high dollar school, we had HVAC, we had plumbing, we had electricians, whatever else. And that's what, they make more money than I ever did, So
It's crazy.
Yeah. So anybody who says we don't need to be learning them like this, well, they need to get out of the 19th century.
Well, and it's just setting them up for success. And I'll never think that's not okay, or that's not our responsibility. I mean, an educated community is what we need, and that has a lot of different faces. It looks different to a lot of different people, but when you can send these kids out of high school ready to work or ready to go to college, you're setting them up for success any way you shake it.
Well, I've been probably a bit less tactful than y'all have to been. I admire that, but it does kind of rankle me just a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these people that think everything the school districts have done have been the best use of money. I understand that, because I can tell you, I sit in my classroom in room 123 and think, what are they thinking down there? What a waste of money this is.
In downtown.
Sure.
Did you say downtown?
No, we're down the street.
Yeah.
Down the street now. They literally were down the street. But now that I'm out and I'm hearing the show, I'm a bit more global. I see the bigger picture.
Sure.
And again, I probably, if I were sitting on the board and I saw an expenditure, I might be, well, are you sure about this? But I'm looking at the bigger picture, and a lot of these things are very, very necessary if they're going to compete in this world we have now.
Sure.
And hey, why can't some people see that? I guess that's me.
Yeah. We just try. I think that a lot of the emotions surrounding our first two bonds have been incredibly negative. So we've just tried our best to stay away from that and try to not even appeal to, but just share what we believe and what we're working towards with like-minded people. I feel like there's a whole lot more of those in the district than there are of those fighting us on everything and fighting the district on literally everything they do. So I am at the place where, and I feel like Angela is too, we have a really great group of people that are working on this that are like-minded as well. We all have our emotional responses to this stuff, but it's not the time to focus on the negatives. It's just the time to get the people we know support this bond to get out and vote and not think that their vote doesn't matter. Or, I think voter apathy is a real thing and people just feel like it's one vote. So what does it matter?
Oh my goodness. See, I teach in those government classes how wrong that is.
Yeah.
Because we've had races like we had a bond issue here. You probably voted in it in May of 21 or 22. I'm getting my dates wrong. And yeah, it was 22 actually. It was going to be for like a new fire station police expansion. And that was one piece. Those roads, second piece. And the roads passed okay, but the other one for police and fire passed by less than 10 votes.
Oh, wow.
So crazy.
And I'm thinking, what in the world? I mean, you think if anybody's going to vote for a bond, it'd be for police and fire.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. But it barely passed. And so there are going to be people that are going to be against it because they're against everything. Mm-hmm. And that's just it.
And they love to rally on fear. And, I don't even give them any attention. I mean, occasionally I'll pop on our residents page and Joshua and have a couple of things to say, but I really try to stay away from it because it's not.
It's a waste.
It is a waste. And we've got things to focus on. That's not it.
It's defeating.
Yeah, I think another thing that Leah and I agree that we'll focus on after this is making parents aware of voting, making sure they're a registered voter, make sure they're aware of polling locations, things like that. I think that it was surprising to see some of even our personal friends like, I'm not registered to vote. Where do I do that? How do I do that?
And I'm like, what?
So
How is that possible? I mean, I got kids that 18-year-olds aren't registered, even though they had an opportunity to do it when they got their license.
Being
at 18.
sure.
I think you get busy and life happens and that's okay. But we want to make sure that we're equipping our parents to know how to get that done.
And our kids, I mean, Angela and I both have kiddos that are just natural born leaders and they get it now too. I want her to share her story about her son at the barbershop the other day because I'm like, yes.
I took my little one to go get a haircut. We walked into a great place and I was on my computer in the waiting room and all of a sudden I heard, well, Joshua has a bond coming up. Yes, ma'am. And Kat, my little one, just starts telling her about the bond and what's needed. And the lady said, well, that cafeteria, it's the same since my kids went to school there. So it's fun that they are hearing what we say. They see, Mr. Hickerson and that team did something to the high schoolers on campus and just to tell them about the bond. And you're, voting. And what it was not about voting for or against, it was just educating students as well. About the bond.
Well, like I've said, I've been in part of that process too, and our bond package passed in 2006 without a need for a recount, but it was still a significant anti-vote. All right, but it was, I can't remember the percentages, but it wasn't a landslide. But it was really tough. We were asked as teachers to get the vote out, but we were also very restricted as to how we did it. I couldn't say. I could talk to my friends all I wanted, but I couldn't, in an official capacity, say, go vote yes, because then there'd be people that would raise Cain. And this is before Facebook and internet were a thing back in 2006. Mm-hmm. Facebook was just a place to find girls, and that kind of
College
stuff.
kids, yeah.
Right. But now you got people these keyboard warriors that, has that been tough on y'all personally?
It's hard for me, and I know she will answer that also, but I'm pretty outspoken naturally and bold in how I feel. And I'm big about standing up for people I care about. So it's been a challenge to not, argue and go fight for what I feel like's right. But at the end of the day, I know that these folks that are fighting us so hard have a script of what they're doing and how to get us emotional and get us engaged in those fights and distract people. And so it's important to stay away from it and not give them exactly what they're trying to get from us. So to me, more of probably a competitive nature that I'm like, I'm not going to give you what you want.
Yeah.
There will be a time, but it's not right now.
It's about choosing how you spend your energy.
That's right.
Right. So spend our energy on that negative or that back and forth, or getting voters to the polls that are our people, right? Our peeps, we say.
Yeah.
Parents that understand the impact that this makes on their students.
But we've had outside influences on our elections, both in the city and school board levels. Are y'all getting outside groups weighing in on this? Have no business to, I think, like PACs or other type of groups?
Yeah. So Texans for Freedom, that's who is, all the yellow signs. I'm sure you guys have them here whenever they come up. They claim that that's a local group. There are residents that are part of it, but that's a bigger group across the state of Texas. So yeah, I mean, we've had our fair share of these folks, creating some tension
and drama. In our city elections, we've had the state Republican Party get involved, and we're supposed to be nonpartisan, guys.
Sure.
And that kind of thing. But that's another story for another rant for another time. But I just wondered if, some of the opposition to this was being funded by outside citizens. Now, if you're a citizen of Joshua, you don't want to vote for it, and you want to put money in the group, that's all protected First Amendment rights. I got it. But that should be the end of it. You shouldn't be relying on outsiders trying to dictate the outcomes of particularly school bond elections. I mean, that's a local decision.
It's we have a little bit of internal chuckle when we see that banter back and forth, and you can quickly go and look up that person's name and see, oh, they're not even registered to vote, or they don't live in the district. So
we have that too. We have people that are outside the district or outside the city that weigh in, it's going to affect them personally. But
the fake profiles,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
all the, it's a lot of nights. It's entertaining. It's just, I told somebody the other day, I'll type a message out a dozen times, and I'm like, just delete it, don't say anything, because it's hard not to. When you're wired like that to stand up, it's hard not to, but it's like we said, it's just a distraction and really focusing on the positives. I tell everyone on our team, I'm like, if you see somebody say something crazy, go call 10 people and say, please go vote. Did you just see what this person said?
Yeah.
Please go vote. Turn it into work to get this
energy.
done. Yes.
where is this vote being held? Because I've never voted in Joshua, certainly, so I don't know where it'd be.
So there's only one day left. That would be just this Saturday, and it's going to be at the community center. And community center is always interesting to me. I live in Burleson, graduated from Crowley High School, Joshua ISD, so I'm learning all these different terms and talks. And early voting was at the administration building, and we even had some parents say, "Where's the administration building?" So that's passed, but
Isn't
now it's
everything on 174 in Joshua?
Everything.
We'll say right off 174 by the school. Which school? So this is going to be at the community center, which is connected to the high school, but not a part of the high school, right? So
Yes.
it's easy to tell a parent it's in the high school parking lot, and you'll see the signs and
Yes.
the tents and the banners and everything.
Yeah, if it's anything like ours, it'll be pro and con there at
sure.
the voting
Yes,
area.
yes.
And it's like, for the voters, it's like trying to run the gauntlet in there. It's, that's why I vote early. Now, since we don't have in Burleson, we had 3 seats that were going to be open for ISD, but all 3 of the incumbents are running unopposed.
Unopposed.
So much nicer that way because
sure.
I like these 3 people, so I'm fine with it. But it does make things a little bit more quiet. In our city elections, we have 2 city council spots that are going to be contested, and it's been a pretty civil race. I mean, there are people trying to make a deal outside of the candidates themselves. The 4 candidates have behaved wonderfully, just like you want to see. And you got people that want to kind of stir the pot because I guess they got nothing better to do. But that's not the candidates, and it's so thank God, because we've gone through a few, haven't we?
Sure.
You remember a couple of these races.
Oh, yes. That was some late night entertainment for me.
Yeah. So we're about out of time. So y'all have the last words. Summarize what y'all would want people to know about this whole situation: the bond, the need, where, what, when, whatever.
I would just tell anyone listening to remember that your vote matters and your kids matter, and you're voting for them as much as you are for anybody else. I don't care how anybody shakes that and says, you don't love your kids if you don't vote yes, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I'm saying. Go vote whatever your heart leads you to vote, but just get out and vote. Don't think that everybody else is going to get it done for you. It matters. there's one day left, 7 to 7, come see us, but please just go vote. Make the time. It's a priority. And, I don't want to have to block you on Facebook if you don't.
Okay. All right. And
I would say, I would echo everything Leah said, and I love that.
well, I admire the fact, particularly, is this your first time to be on the committee?
Yeah. Oh, no. Last year. And then my husband was the year before that.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. Then I admire both of y'all for, not letting one defeat say, well, I guess we're done and that's it. Keep fighting that good fight.
Sure.
I think it's going to pass this time for several reasons, because I think also it helps to have Mr. Lee and Mr. Watson on the ballot, because
Yes.
they're going to bring some votes with them.
And they're great guys.
They really are. I could tell just in the hour we spent, said these are the kind of people you want on the school board.
Sure.
So I've been, and their opponents, I have nothing to say about them at all. But I'm just saying these kind of guys, this is what you want. And Joshua and Burleson both, but Joshua needs people like y'all to be involved. So many people complained about the school district in Burleson, but they never did a thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They never ran for anything. They never got to know the teachers. They never got to know the system. They just wanted a bellyache.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, 95% of my interactions with Burleson parents were great. Okay, it's one of the best things I had about my job is I always had a lot of good relationships. But that being said, we needed the facilities too.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this is how Joshua ISD people can show their support to their teachers. They may say nice things about them or send them a card at Christmas, and that's all great. Mm-hmm. But this is the kind of support that really means something, is the kind of programs, the kind of buildings, the kind of opportunities they're providing their kids. So Joshua voters, you know what to do.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Come see us.
Thank you for saying that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, this will be on Apple and Spotify by this time tomorrow. Share this with your friends. I usually, when I go straight home and I put it on, share it around a bunch, I've got to go to the airport. So
That's all right.
yeah, so I'll have it up. I'll have it shared with the various other platforms by this evening.
Cool. Well, thank you
So,
for having us. As a former educator, it means a lot that you see the value and the time and the work that we're doing in this bond.
Better now than I did even when I was teaching, to tell you the truth, because like I said, I have a global view. I have
Sure.
a more of an elevated idea of what's going on instead of just focusing on me. So,
Well, thank you again. Yes, sir. We
problem.
appreciate it.
as far as next week's shows, I only have one that I know is booked. The Center for ASD is coming by with Lisa. She's going to be talking about some upcoming events. I got one in the works maybe for Monday, but I'd rather not say because I'm not quite sure. Thursday's wide open, so I may get to have a rant. I haven't had one of those in a while. Thank y'all, ladies, for what you do for your community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
Good job, Taylor.
Thank you.